Hi guys, Tempest here. In this video we'll be discussing some common ways you can spot someone is cheating in Yu-Gi-Oh! We'll be more focused on online play and on intentional cheating, so we won't be mentioning some things that could be considered as mistakes. For example, if someone tries to deny their opponent's use of ice or fire hands effect when its summon gets solemn warning, that might be just poor understanding of in your possession term and not actual malicious intent. Here we have an example where one could use Murmel Abyss Spike's effect when summoned via Murmel Abyss Osha's effect, since why would they make cards miss their timing within their own deck combos? But yeah, anyway, we won't be talking about illegal plays such as this one, but other more blatant cheating attempts. A lot of these examples can be easily discovered if games are played online, and you wouldn't be able to catch the player making these cheating examples in real play for the most part. Allowing replays, other players and judges can analyze more easily if the player's cheating move was done intentionally or not. In any case, this basically means there are multiple benefits to playing online than in real life, at least in regards to avoiding getting cheated on. Most of these situations are scenarios that could happen in H.A.T format environment. In current format, there are for sure more ways to get to cheat with all the cards that were printed over the years. We'll start with the most known case, that being of Infernity players setting monsters as back row. So let's check the replay. If we have something like Stygian Sergeants that allows us to special summon Infernity Archfiend and get our deck going. In real life, you could set a monster as back row, so you could trigger Infernity Archfiend's effect. But as you can see, Dueling Book has no button that can do that straight up. So you have to put Infernity Archfiend face up in your back row first and then set it, which is great, so you can't get cheated on. There is an additional button to set, for example, Artifact Moraltech in your back row, because that's an option for you to do via his effect. What actually happened in real life is that when Infernity, Infernity opponents used Mystical Space Typhoon on that set monster, they simply shuffled all cards on the board rather than revealing what was being set, which is fishy behavior, but allowed nonetheless. If your opponent didn't MST that exact back row and you won with the advantage you managed to generate, you once again didn't have to reveal what was being set. Anyway, a very unethical way to play, but this case really does have the most based on real event stories behind it. So yeah, we just now saw that you can set Infernity Archfiend and then proceed with your Infernity plays. A very similar case to that of Infernity setting back row is something like Brionac discarding more cards than possible to ensure an advantageous game state. These plays mostly occurred in Edison format, where Brionac and its original effect text was legal. So if you have Brionac on board, and you'd like to make something else along with it, but your opponent has no cards on their side of the field that you can bounce, you could once again set a monster in your back row just to use Brionac's effect and discard more graveyard-based cards to get their effects online. Once again, Dueling Book doesn't allow you to do that because you have to put monsters face up in your back row first, as we saw here in the replay. So now we discard Mezuki to bounce our fake back row, then use Mezuki to special summon, for example, Plex Spreader, then discard once again Malicious to bounce this fake back row again, use Malicious, and now we can end up on a level 8 Synchro and do more than 5,000 points of damage if you want, or make Stardust. Without setting this fake Zombie Master as back row, we couldn't really do this much. Similar to Infernity and Brionac, the legal use of cards is something like Soul Exchange, and later the Monarch's Stormfort, for example, when you used it to tribute set a level 4 or lower monster, or even a spell and trap card, so you could win after that. So you would then just shuffle the cards without revealing what was being set. These cases are basically infinite, so I won't discuss them anymore, maybe just another case. But yeah, these cases are very hard to defend sanction-wise, in my opinion. So here we have this scenario. Your opponent has a problematic monster, and how do you want to win because they have less than 800 life points? You can use Soul Exchange, or as we said, Monarch's Stormfort, tribute set, whatever, and now we can play around this monster because we removed it and now we won. Some cases you are able to defend, but this is just blatant cheating. Basically, identical scenario to previous one is just setting whatever over even a spell over something like H.A.T format Sangan, who then adds us a useful card with which we can win before our opponent has the chance to reveal what we just set. So we tribute set effect Veiler over Sangan, Sangan triggers, adds Mataza, and we can now OTK with Mataza. We never have to reveal that we actually tribute set Veiler. Next one is lying about not having any more legal targets in one of your non-public locations. In H.A.T format, you don't have to reveal your hand or deck to confirm you cannot successfully resolve a card effect. Probably most basic example is when one player uses a Red Eyes Darkness Metal Dragon or Geargiano Mk-II, trying to revive their only target in their graveyard, but it gets DD Crowed as Chainlink 2. Let's just make this scenario, and then you would have to summon something from your hand because you have to resolve the effect as much as possible, or you could just lie about it and then use something like Dark Hole and still be left with this monster to use after this play. So we didn't summon this arsenal, although we should. We must summon him. We just say we have no targets, then we Dark Hole, next turn we have Arsenal for later plays. This is another example. You can easily spot a cheater when playing online. So in previous example, we could lie about not having a legal target, but in this one it's the exact opposite. When something like Skill Drain is online, and if not all 3 copies of Genex controller are not in public locations, you could indefinitely use Genex Undine's effect to send water monsters as cost from your deck to graveyard without adding Genex controller to your hand. We'll do just that. Even though we cannot really activate Undine's effect, but because if our opponent uses MST as Chainlink 2 here, targeting this skill drain, you'd be caught with your pants down and it would be apparent you were trying to cheat, or you don't know your deck maybe, that you only play 2 controllers. When playing in a format library tournament, you can easily check what deck you enroll with, so you should be the only one who is able to check the deck list on the spot, meaning there are no real excuses you didn't know you only play 2 Genex controllers, for example. Basically identical scenario is when you have something like Fiendish Chained Evilswam Ophion. So let's just make one quickly. And you would like to detach so you could use Evilswam Kerikaion's effect, even though you aren't really legally able to, since there are no targets left in the deck. So same as before, if your opponent uses something like MST as H.A.T, Ophion's effect wouldn't go through and your opponent could then choose to not use MST as H.A.T, since there is no H.A.T 1 to begin with. So yeah, we finished chain this Ophion, and now we use his effect because we cannot search anything. Kerikaion can add Heliotrope, and now we can make a lot of damage, or a rank 4, otherwise we couldn't have done. For those two cases, judges will often just give a warning to the player who uses their cards as effects illegally, since they are too often seen as simple misplays. Often the player who does these plays can say they didn't check everything in their hand, back row, graveyard, and banishment, and they did not know they were out of targets. Next one is something that Konami disallowed, while in most other TCGs you still wouldn't get punished by official sanction guidelines for the most part. The most well-known example is saying, or rather asking your opponent Cowboy for game when they're under 800 life points, even though you don't play Gagaga Cowboy in your extra deck. So you ask your opponent, maybe Scoops, even though you actually don't have Cowboy. Same as with the previous one, you could argue you didn't know you are not playing Gagaga Cowboy after your opponent Scoops. In conclusion, this is once again something you are not allowed to do. Another mostly malicious cheating scenario is when you accidentally, in parentheses, drop a card such as Firehand, for example, only to then set something else entirely, like Geargiano. The main point of this play is, we can call it, if we can call it so, is that the opponent will make something like Abyss Dweller to play around Firehand's effect, but it will crash into something like Armor, and at this point you probably won, since you are now +3 with this play alone. You could do the same with artifacts, so your opponent won't target your back row, etc. It's really hard for a judge to decide if that play was really malicious or no. A well-known one that may win you ICSs and even went through in World Championship feature match, I remember. So you normal summon at the start of your turn, then do a lot of thinking and special summoning, and at the end of the turn you might get away with a second normal summon. Lastly, we have an online-only scenario in which a player only inputs something like an attack or defense change when it's beneficial to him, but not when it would benefit him for the opponent to think the stats are unchanged. Let's see an example. If a player changes attack and defense in this case, when he'll be using Labradorid Dragon as XYZ material, but keeps Red Eyes Darkness Metal Dragon's attack and defense unchanged, when he'll be left on the field for the following turn to use his effect once again. That's very fishy behavior and could easily be sanctioned. The main reason for this is not being consistent with your gameplay. So if you change Labradorid's defense, you must change Red EMD's stats as well, or vice versa. Yeah, that will be all the cases I prepared for you in this video. In conclusion, playing online is much better in regards to the possibilities of you getting cheated, while playing a remote duel is absolutely the worst. And there are plenty of stories about all kinds of cheating that happened in remote duels. Nonetheless, you have to stay focused and notice these cheating attempts. Don't hesitate contacting a judge so the tournament organizer can write down the misplay or cheating attempt. And if that happened already in this tournament, the sanction will get upgraded, as it should. Whoever is in charge of judging will provide a final verdict if the cheat was intentional or not. It often comes down to that player's history, and that's exactly why it's very, very important for communities to keep track of players' past behavior, something you can gather information from other TCG communities as well. Unfortunately, there have been examples where a notorious cheater went from one TCG to another and continued to cheat there as well. There really isn't a lot of cheating present in everyday matches, so it isn't all bad, but trust me, at the top tables, at least in the real life games, there is some very, very skilled cheating present. Even checking Yu-Gi-Oh's rather short history, you'd easily find out that some players who consistently top or used to top were adamant cheaters. Some got sanctioned by Konami and or Yu-Gi-Oh community, but some didn't. Anyway, this isn't this video's intention, and I won't be mentioning any names. Since that's all from me, I'd like to thank you once more for watching and wish you a good day. Bye.